Hey guys, PretzelMan945 here. Welcome back to another video. In tonight's video, this is gonna be the first part of a little mini series, which are my One Piece re-reviews. I started watching One Piece a couple days ago. I'm not doing the entire thing, so it's not gonna be that many videos, don't worry. Um, Honestly, I'm probably going up to the time skip, and that's probably it. Maybe I'll do one of the post time skip arcs, but I highly doubt it. Really likely it's going to be specifically in pre time skip, a bunch of my favorite arcs. So, East Blue, which I just finished watching, Alabasta, Water 7, Eddie Lobby, Sabaody, Impel Down, and Marineford. That's probably it. Um, and speaking of East Blue, as I just mentioned, I just finished rewatching it. So this first video, as the first of the mini series, is going to be my re-review of East Blue. So we're gonna kind of take this arc by arc because I think that's the easiest way to do this. Romance Dawn, fantastic. I had forgotten how much of a top tier start this was to One Piece. Like I was immediately remembering every single reason why I was instantly hooked on One Piece when I started watching Romance Dawn. There are so many amazing moments. You have Luffy's very iconic introduction. You have Zoro's great introduction. The build out of the character between them. Luffy's past with Shanks, which is definitely the best part of Romance Dawn for sure. Um, all of that just amazing, amazing, honestly. Really enjoyed it more than I remember, to be honest. Then we get to Orangetown. Orangetown's about the same for me. It's just all right. I like Nami's introduction. I like Buggy. But there also isn't as much to it that stands out. Um, like I said, these are not going to be particularly long videos because I've already reviewed One Piece. Like, there isn't as much for me to say, at least not with East Blue anyway. Getting into Syrup Village, this was not quite as good as I remember. It's not bad, but I just think, just like Orangetown, it's just okay. And the reason I say that is because I really like Usopp's introduction. Like, same thing as when I first watched Your Village. I really like all of that. I really like the development and establishment of his character in particular. The thing that kind of brings Syrup Village down for me, and this is like a common trend, to be honest, I noticed among a lot of the arcs, and this might just be crap anime pacing. I'm not entirely sure, but I noticed a lot more that the fights with main antagonists, like Orange Town, kind of had this problem where it feels like the fight with Buggy goes on for too long. The same thing happens in Sierra Village with Kuro. It feels like that is dragged unnecessarily long to the point where it probably could have been wrapped up in another episode or in like one fewer episodes. But other than that, Sierra Village is perfectly fine. Um, Now, getting to Baratier, this is where my opinions greatly improved. I like Baratier like I would honestly say like twice more than when I first watched it. And I'm gonna go out on a limb. And I don't know if this is necessarily true, but Barati is my favorite arc in the East Blue. Arlong Park comes close, and we'll talk about Arlong Park in a minute. But um, after rewatching Baratier, I am firmly convinced that Sanji has by far the best character introduction of all the Straw Hats. I think like throughout this entire arc, I feel like you learn so much about his character and his personality, and you are able to view so many things from his own lens specifically, and I think that really, really gives him a lot of awesome characterization that I think is just simply not present with the other Straw Hats, which I'm not saying is a bad thing, but I think it makes me like Sanji better because there's a lot more of it. And not only is his initial backstory by far the best, in my opinion, I think it's definitely the most brutal. I think it's got like the best relationship, like, between Sanji and Zeph. I think that's definitely the best dynamic of all the backstories. Well, do I like it better than Nami's? Yeah, just a hair, just a hair. Um, but like for example, I think it's much more effective than Usopp's because I feel like Usopp's comes later and Zoro's is kind of like a standalone episode when it probably should have been included, like when he was introduced. Um, but I feel like there's a ton of minor nitpicks I could make. And at the end of the day, this is also the beginning of a very long anime, and it was something that was made in 1999 initially, like anime wise and manga wise, like still talking late 90s. So, I'm also not really looking for that like advanced concepts because that's not the point of One Piece, at least definitely not in East Blue, I would argue when they're introducing the straw hats, but like this is a re-review and these are things that I am pointing out, little like nitpicks. Doesn't make me like the show or the East Blue arcs any less. um I also forgot just how much I enjoyed Don Krieg as a villain. I think that it's kind of close between him and Arlong. I think Arlong is overall a better villain, but in terms of sheer entertainment value, Don Krieg is absolutely at the top in terms of East Blue villains. His entire demeanor is incredibly ridiculous and uh just like the first time I watched it, I had forgotten how many absurd, like the absolute absurd amount of weapons that Don Krieg has, and the sheer variety of them, and the way he somehow manages to use basically all of them within the same fight. Just makes the whole thing just incredibly entertaining. Um, Also, I remain convinced after rewatching Baratier, I still love Sanji and Whole Cake. I'm not saying I don't, but I think Sanji's best arc is Baratier and not Whole Cake. I think he's better in Baratier. I think the way he's introduced and the way you learn overall about his character, I think I like it better than the fantastic development that he goes through in Whole Cake. Again, I really, really like Sanji and Whole Cake. They're both his arcs, but I like Baratier just a little bit better. Um, Also, I'd forgotten how much of a fucking menace and how fucking cool Mihawk was. Like, and this is why I tell people I can't pick between Shanks and Mihawk because every time every time I feel like I'm leaning toward one, there's some really cool shit that happens that makes me realize I can't pick. And this kind of thing happened seeing Mihawk again because I feel ever since I watched Film Red and I quite enjoyed that, I kind of feel like I've been was leaning a little bit more towards Shanks, but then rewatched his entire introduction, and then I forgot how much I fucking love Mihawk and the fact that they're only the same place. I can't quite decide. I can't decide who I like better between the two. Um, and I remain convinced. Episode 21, Mihawk versus Zoro, the entire episode one of my favorite episodes in the whole fucking series. No question. Because not only is it just the one moment, but and this is what I was talking about gaining so much characterization from Sanji being able to view things from his perspective. I really, really liked his commentary of the whole fight. And I think it's really interesting how you can clearly see this start to see the very strong threads of respect that he feels for Zoro. They begin to form as Sanji sees Zoro fight Mihawk and just sees him refuse to give up. Um Also, I love what it says about Luffy's character, the fact that he respected Zoro's wishes to stay behind, watch that fight, and also not interfere, rather than going after Usopp, despite the fact that he wanted to make catching Nami and their ship a priority. I really, really like that a lot, and I think fantastic. Now, with Baradier, um, I also, I forgot how much I honestly, genuinely enjoyed Johnny and Yosuke. I think they are hilarious side characters that are just enough to where they don't. It's just on that border of funny and enjoyable, but not too much to where they're extremely annoying. Um, now, I also love the all the personality of the chefs. I think it's great. I think Yin's entire storyline is really good and much more captivating than I honestly remembered. His entire character was much better than I remembered it being, and I liked it the first time I watched it, so that was a very pleasant surprise. Now, like I mentioned, with the thing with the curl and the buggy thing, I think it's definitely more present in Baratier in particular. I feel like the fight that Luffy has with Krieg probably drags on a little bit. I think it probably could have been wrapped up in two less episodes, two fewer episodes. Because at a certain point it just kind of feels like a little bit of a drag. Um, all right. That's kind of all my thoughts on Baratier. Now, getting to Arlong Park. I think Arlong Park was about the same level of quality as I remember it being, which is really good, but far from the best arcs. I loved everything with Nami. Nami's entire actually that was something I liked even better this time. Everything with Nami's conflict, her pushing them away. The other character moments as they see right through Nami, the other things that Nami does for them, Nami's backstory, I liked all of that better. I also think Arlong is a lot more intimidating than I remembered because I did not remember this, but bro literally brushes a fucking cannonball with his teeth. Like, bro, what? Um, Also the Momu, yeah, that's fucking hilarious. Um, and I think this arc does an excellent job of balancing humor and seriousness at just the right points to where it's a very even and consistent experience throughout the whole thing. The Nami moment as well, the Straw Hat Walk, so hype, so peak. Loved that a lot. Um, I really liked also the individual fights, like Zoro versus Hachan was really good. Sanji versus Kurobi was good. Usopp versus Chu was really funny and entertaining, great for his character. Luffy versus Arlong, like the other East Blue fights I mentioned, I feel like, and it might sound like I'm really nitpicking with like me saying that they could have been like condensed in a certain amount of episodes fewer, but the reason I say that is because some of these fights is, and I think the Arlong one is like the biggest culprit of this. It kind of feels like because it goes on for longer than it needs to, it kind of like loses the tension, and the more it goes on, it also means that like more jokes are made, which also kind of means that the overall tone of it loses a bit of the seriousness that made it initially uh extremely captivating. Again, it's not a major issue, it's just a little nitpick I have. Um but yeah, overall I would say I enjoyed Arlong Park to the same extent. Same thing I will say with Logtown. I think it's an arc I enjoyed, but it's also like far from the best arcs. Um, uh, Booker didn't leave as much of an impact as I remembered. But the execution stand moment was even more awesome than I remembered. I loved seeing all the stuff about Goldie Roger. That was great. Um, um, I like seeing Buggy again. I still think that's very funny. Um, I really love, I think my favorite thing about Logtown as an arc definitely is like the fact that Zoro, Sanji, and Usopp all have like these side episodes dedicated to like things that are interesting about them. I think the Sanji cooking one is definitely the least interesting. Just because I feel like it wasn't as necessary because Barati already did such a good job of adding so much characterization. I think the Usopp one is fantastic. I think the idea of having him duel another uh famous sniper that also happened to have dueled with Yasop, I think that's a fantastic idea. I think the resolution of it with Usopp proving his abilities while not actually ending up ruling, I think it's great for his character, and I think it makes a lot of sense. Definitely my favorite though, and this is purely Zoro fight bias, but like him like just flinging the Getetsu into the ground, like that just makes me hype. It's just one of those Zoro moments that just remind me why he's my favorite One Piece character, and it gets me really hype. Um, but yeah, I think final thoughts. Ethan Blue is fantastic. I'm sure that's not surprising. Romance Dawn up. Orangetown and Syrup Village down a little bit. When I say up and down, it's not like Scream Mount. I still like all of these arcs. Baradier up quite a bit, definitely the most. And I would say Arlong Park and Logtown stayed about the same. But yeah, that's gonna do it for my first episode of this mini series of One Piece reviews. The next one will come when I finish Alabasta. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye.